Happy draft day to you, folks. Welcome to Got Your Back, short shift edition. Ryan Rishaug coming to you from Nashville, Tennessee. Having a fantastic time out here, getting set for the NHL draft a little bit later on today. Jason Strudwick, Chris Sabunia standing by. Got a good podcast for you today. Going to break down what Ken Holland had to say yesterday in his media availability. How you feeling about that, Oiler fan? He had some interesting stuff to say. Doesn't sound like they're going to be too active on July 1st. Also, some trades from around the National Hockey League. I've been chasing the insiders all over Nashville as they're breaking news left, right, and center. We'll talk a little bit about the Winnipeg Jets, the Calgary Flames, and some of what we expect at the draft tonight. Of course, Got Your Back. Brought to you by Mid-City Construction Management, a locally owned family company specializing in civil construction projects for over 40 years. How about that? A local company over 40 years in our city, working on some of the biggest projects around town. I had the chance to go on a couple of site tours with them. Man, they take on a lot. Mid-City Construction is big, they're family owned, they're trusted, and they've played a huge role in the infrastructure of Edmonton and surrounding area since 1980. Welcome to my hotel room, guys. Strutty, Zuby. I always find it feels weird when I'm watching different podcasts. I watch Ray and Dregs all the time, and Ray's often in hotel rooms. Mike Johnson joins us now and then. When you can see the bed in somebody's shot, I always find it just feels weird when you can see someone's bed where they slept. It making you feel weird, Struds?
Oh, it's a lot better than what we had the other night when you just jumped on and you were laying in your bed like Mr. November in a spread. And I was like, I'm not sure I can do this. I can't work on it. I called HR the next morning. I don't know if Zuby got the call or not.
My video wasn't supposed to be on Zuby. I thought I could just come on audio, and Zuby told me I could just be audio. And all of a sudden, I'm staring at my face. But I did the podcast while I was laying in bed. I thought it was just audio.
Well, the video came on to the fellas for a second here. It wasn't. I didn't put you out to the universe that way. It was just for our eyes only. I don't think there's a way to accept you just as audio. I had to accept the whole thing and then mute video.
Accept me as I am, boys.
Yeah, well,
accept me as I am in all my glory, just laying there ready to execute great content, Streds.
I use steel wool in my eyes, and I still don't feel comfortable.
You know what?
Come on,
as long as the bed's made, like the bed is made, I don't want to see anything on it that would get my mind going about any hints about anything that happened there. I just want a clean made bed. I got no problem. Well, I don't even want to know about that. That's why it has to be made. I want it to be pristine, and then it doesn't bother me.
Well, and I actually did that. I made, because we're taping pretty early here in the morning, I went and made it, and I set up the shot, and I looked, and I thought, you got to make it look like it's freshly made, even by like hotel staff. So I pulled it tight and made it look. I just don't want anybody to feel awkward here. It's been a fun couple of days in Nashville. Struddy, you must have had a few good stops in Nashville over the years, buddy. To this town, oh my goodness, does this town ever light up when stuff happens like this? Holy smokes! I was here for a cup final a few years ago. Brought Randino with me. We had a blast. And now the last couple of days, it's just been unreal on the Strip.
I loved it there. I went with some friends, though. And there's a store that's on Broadway that you could buy, I think it was 3 pairs of boots for the price of one. And we went in there about 1 a.m. And let's say that I tried on every pair of size 13 boots in the store. And then I got the deal. But I don't know if it's still there. I got a nice pair of snakeskin boots that look pretty sick. I said I wanted to wear them.
Yeah, I'm not a boots guy. Zuby, you ever done Nashville, pal?
I haven't. It is really on the list for me. I've heard so many good things about it, and it looks super cool. And I saw your guys hit the other day with the Cher cover playing in the background. I had a good chuckle
it's
at
loud.
that.
You can't get away from the noise, like everywhere, because they've got bands out on the main street right outside the rink. And then every place you walk into has 2 or 3 bands going on 2 or 3 different floors. So we did our hits yesterday, Sports Center and that hockey from the iconic rooftop patio at Tootsie's. And it's mayhem at Tootsie's this time of year. It was 35 degrees. Dave Parker, our ace camera guy, spent 4 hours on the rooftop setting it up, getting it ready, and then executing hits. but we did about 7 or 8 live hits in a 90-minute window from 35 degrees with a band playing on the stage in front of us, right? All sorts of people boozing and drinking all around us, and a band playing on the main stage. Like, you could not hear a thing. Like, everywhere you go, Struddy, it's just so loud and so much music and festivity happening.
Yeah, it is, and it's like we called it Nash Vegas. Like, it is truly as good as Vegas. Like, not as many shows, but there's, I mean, as far as like, Cirque du Soleil and stuff, but the bands, every bar has 3 levels with live bands. You can go in there and for $20, they'll play anything you want to hear. So they heard a lot of Neil Diamond when I was there.
You put some requests in, hey? Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Man.
I love it.
And the bands are, I mean, like, you're not getting the bottom of the barrel here. Man.
Yeah,
Walking to any bar on the strip here, and the band you're hearing is absolutely off the charts. Okay, let's get to talking some hockey. Zuby, we'll check in with you in a little bit. I know you're monitoring some comments on Twitter. People responding to Ken Holland's press conference yesterday. So we'll check back in with you a little bit later on in the show. For now, let's get to our breakdown. See you, pal. Our breakdown brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. High quality, maintenance-free vinyl decking and fencing. If it's time to make a change in your backyard, if you've been sitting in your chair looking at your fence, looking at your deck thinking, got to do something, highly advise you to consider maintenance-free vinyl from DLR. You don't have to strip it. You don't have to stain it. You don't have to sand it and paint it. Nothing like that. It goes in once. It stays in. High quality. Lasts decades and decades. Definitely recommend DLR Vinyl Products. My brother Rick has the branch out there in Edmonton. Rob has the branch in Calgary. That's DLR Vinyl Products. Struds, Ken Holland had his media availability yesterday. Few things we want to get to here. I'll headline them. 1, says they're going to explore the market July 2nd. So I guess they're just putting their phones down July 1st. 2, Kailer Yamamoto in that situation. 3, Philip Broberg and his usage into next season. And 4, Klim Kostin and potential interest from the KHL. I think given we're at the draft and free agency is just around the corner, let's maybe start with exploring the market on July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, to put it in his words. What did you think when you heard that? The first thing I thought was, Oilers fans not going to like that. Mm-hmm. Not that they have any room for big game hunting, but tempering expectations, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And the one thing about Ken Holland is a lot of times he tells us exactly what he's doing. Like he doesn't have a big surprise. He's always, this is what I'm going to do. This is what this is what's up. So that's the truth. So July 1st, don't be looking at the Oilers to add. I think we're looking at teams like Chicago to spend. Maybe Arizona will try to put a couple NHL players in our lineup next year through free agency. So yeah, I think that he's right. And quite honestly, like he said it, he goes, my top 6 is pretty solid. We're looking at bottom 6 is kind of like what we're looking to beef up and add. So I actually think he's 100% right. They've got to find some deals in that $1 to $1.5 million that really have good bang for their buck. That's his job. He's got to go and find guys that really exceed their value. So they play at 1.25, let's say, but they're worth 2.25, right? They need to get some deals like that in their bottom 6. So I don't know who those players are if they're not the players they have already, the UFAs, but it'll be very interesting to see what he ends up doing because he is tight against it between signing Bouchard and McLeod and Skinner.
Well, I mean, the point that he would make is when we look at where the cap was when he got here and look at where the cap is now, I might be wrong on this. I'm sure people will correct me, but I think it's gone up less than a couple $1 million in the time that he's been here.
Yeah, crazy.
Now, it's been the same for all the other teams, but I think they've done a pretty good job of, being able to improve the team despite the fact that the cap has been fairly flat through that time. So they just don't have the space to go out and execute on some of these bigger guys. And quite frankly, I don't think they need to necessarily. We all know that there's some improvement needed on the back end, and when that can happen, I think it's more likely to be in season. But I just don't see that. And the other option would be, well, are you looking for the trade, right? Are you, Cece and Yamamoto out, packaged with a pick, and that opens up space, and Pesci's in, and they sign him to an extension, and the hockey deal. I think they're trying. I think they're making those calls. I think they're interested in that. But I don't think that is likely. And I know that is boring for Oiler fan to hear. There are some times, Struds, on this podcast where I will say, it's close, and I'm thinking this is going to happen. And then there are times where I will say, my sense is it's not really. That's truly the sense I get, is that there isn't going to be some rabbit pulled out of a hat here.
Well, because there's a cost to the assets going out, and then you got to pay for the assets coming in. And I think that, you only have so many assets and so many kick of the can, and they've got to be, to use your words, surgical in what they've done. And we saw that with Ekholm. It was expensive to get Ekholm. And, even Ken referenced that yesterday, a 32-year-old defenseman, because they're in win now. And that's a win now move. So they got to really be careful and smart and strategic in how they approach this not just I guess the draft, but the trade deadline. The free agency coming up this weekend.
Okay, let's get to the Weiss Johnson soundbox. Zuby, if you want to get the clip on Yamamoto ready. 45 years they've been in the business. They're Edmonton's #1 choice for air conditioners, hot water tanks, furnaces, garage heaters, or if you need any of those things serviced, Weiss Johnson can make sure you're taken care of on that front as well. Give Dennis and the awesome crew a jingle at 780-463-3096. And they also know how to throw a hell of a good golf tournament. That is Weiss Johnson. Zuby?
Weiss Johnson, whoa.
Yeah, I know we're dealing with a bit of a delay, Zuby, but you got to tighten up that. You got to get that jingle in a little quicker next time. Ken Holland yesterday, I asked him a question about Kailer Yamamoto, and here is question and answer.
Have you spoken to Kailer, and what can you say about kind of his status moving forward here? We all know where you're at on the cap.
Yeah, I have not spoken to Kailer yet. I'm still working the phones, and I got to see what transpires.
So not a fulsome answer from him, but listen, he said, I'm still working the phones. Confirming what we all know, in that he's trying to move the contract, probably having a tough time doing it, and that this might be hurtling towards a buyout. Struds, if you were a team and you're thinking about acquiring Kailer Yamamoto, you're probably fine. It's just that the size and the cap number, the combination of those two things, make it difficult. And especially because other teams maybe don't understand the intangibles that come with him too, the same way that the Oilers do. So tough trade to make, I would say.
No, I'm surprised. I look at Nick Foligno yesterday signed a deal for $4 million. Right now, he's a veteran guy, and maybe they had to pay him a little more juice to get him to come to Chicago and be part of what's going to be a pretty tough year. Exciting in some ways with Connor Bedard being there. But, I mean, here's a guy in Kailer Yamamoto who's young. He is small. There's no doubt. And it seems like small is difficult in the playoffs. But he's at $3.1 million. You'd say we'll take him for future considerations or whatever it is. And he's another player in your top 9. He can play in your top 9. Let's Chicago, I'd be blown away if they're a playoff team next year. But they can play in the Blackhawks top 9, and you get him for nothing. And then, there's an opportunity to maybe renegotiate after the year, and you drop that down or whatever the case is. But I look at a team, even a team like Arizona, they need NHL talent. He's an NHL player. He might not be a playoff performer on a consistent basis, but I don't know. I'm shocked.
Okay, but Struds, let me play devil's advocate here. I'm going to play devil's advocate with you. You do your due diligence on a player, and part of that is understanding his game. We all know Kailer Yamamoto's at his best when he's being tenacious. He finishes checks, right? He brings energy and he finishes checks. But at his size, for him to play his best game, he can't stay healthy. He has a history of being hurt and significantly hurt. This player has a history, I believe it's a neck injury of some sort, that he's been battling through. And when he tries to play the game the way he wants to play it, he has a hell of a time staying healthy. And teams know that about him. So now, if you want any kind of longevity out of him, or if you want a chance for him to be in your lineup 82 games, what kind of game is he going to play? I think people like this player. I think they're worried about the style of play when he's at his best and his ability to stay healthy. That has to factor in.
I understand, and I get that totally. But when you're a team, I'm looking at Chicago. You just picked up 2 players for very cheap out of Boston that are 2 veteran players, and you're trying to help Bedard. You want to have veteran players around him. They can play, and he could get hurt, but anyone can get hurt anytime. Is he more likely to get hurt than others? Yes, he is. But I'm just looking at a guy that can help just add NHL, talent and experience to your lineup, and for nothing, for no cost. So that's where I'm a bit surprised by that. Now, if he is bought out, he's probably signed pretty quickly to a much smaller deal, and life goes on. But I don't know. I just look at Puljujarvi. They were able to trade Puljujarvi and not retain any money. Why is this different? Is it just because he's smaller? I think his production was more consistent than the big man. So I'm surprised. I'm surprised.
Think about the amount of time that he's played with either Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl.
Mm-hmm.
8 goals a couple seasons ago, was only able to play 52 games. Last year, 81 games and 20 goals, right? We all saw that. Was dry for a while, then got hot.
Right.
And put up a 20-goal season playing with those guys. Last season was only able to play 58 games and held to 10 goals. And then in 12 playoff games, just 1 goal. So I think people will look at it and say, well, he played with Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl almost every shift or tons of the shifts that he was with the Oilers. We don't have those guys to play him with. And, what's his production going to be like? I think he's a third-line producer on pretty much every other team where you can't put him next to one of those guys. So I hear you. I like the player. I like the tenacity. The fact that guys wanted to play with him, I think, is telling. But I probably headed towards a buyout here unless Ken Holland's willing to attach a pick and try and move the asset out. Back to the Weiss Johnson soundbox. I asked him about Philip Broberg and the fact that the D-core is pretty full and what you do about a young defenseman that needs ice time, but you don't have a lot of space for him. What's the strategy moving forward with Philip Broberg?
You look at Evan Bouchard, where he was when he was 21 years of age, the same age. We were in the Canadian division. I think he played 11 games out of the 56. Had to kind of wait his time, and it's turned out pretty good. Now, I'm not going to tell you that Philip. I think Philip is a different player than Evan Bouchard. So when you've got we're in the win now mode. That's why I acquired a 32-year-old defenseman by the name of Ekholm at the deadline. That's why I re-signed, the moves that we made with Kulak. So obviously, it makes it more difficult for young players to play.
And it should. When you're in your cup window, it should be hard for young players to get into the lineup. I remember I covered the Boston Bruins in a Stanley Cup final way back when, and the young gun that was scrambling to get into the lineup and just waiting for his chance was Tyler Seguin. It's supposed to be hard to make championship caliber teams lineups. Doesn't change the fact, though, they got to come up with a strategy and figure it out for Philip Broberg. And I do not think that strategy should be have him with the team and playing every third or fourth game. I do not think that should be the strategy here, Struds.
Well, he's got to play. And the problem is there's no way forward here for him to play. Like, let's just call it as it is. So
without a significant injury.
Yeah. But then you're just, you're kind of hoping, we're going to hope that someone gets hurt. Like I said it earlier, and I believe there's got to be a road for him to get into the lineup on a consistent basis and have a role to play. And there just isn't one unless they change someone on the left side. But Ekholm's not going anywhere. Neither is Nurse, and it doesn't look like Kulak. He's been so good. So, you go on the other side. It's CC, it's Bouchard, and it's Vinny Darnay who, there should be some improvement in his puck skills from year 1 to year 2. So I just don't. I don't know how he gets in. And I know you want, we're going to play 7 defensemen all year. Well, yeah, I guess so. But that's still not a regular shift with a regular partner and make it happen. So I think he's a guy that could be viewed as a potential trade if the right trade comes up.
Why?
Well, because
really?
Where is he going to play, Shagar? How does he get in? I guess you can play him in the minor. Does he have weight? No, he's fine. He can go down.
He's
again,
fine.
Right?
He can go up
so you
and
go
down
and play. So you can go down and play again.
I've heard a bit of this over the last couple of days. I've heard a bit of talk about how Broberg potentially would be a guy that would be in play, right. But this boggles my mind. I don't understand. Like, you need good defensemen at playoff time, right? You need good defensemen that you can rely on at playoff time, and you need guys on entry level, first, second year deals to stay in your window and prolong your window longer. So you've got an NHL caliber defenseman. All he needs is a development plan. Just come up with a development plan that has him playing good enough, quality enough hockey that when the need arises, he steps in for free and he's good to go.
So what's your development plan, though? What is that?
I'll tell you exactly what my development plan is.
All
exactly.
right.
comes into training camp, fights for a spot. Philip Broberg can play the right side. He can. It's not ideal, but he can. And if he does not earn a spot out of training camp, you send him to the American Hockey League. And Philip Broberg plays 23 minutes a night every night in the American Hockey League. And when Vinny Desharnais has a little bit of this in his game, and he absolutely will, no question, you recall Philip Broberg, you give him the opportunity, and you've got a ready-made solution for injuries and if Desharnais played dips. I don't think it's going to be smooth sailing start to finish for Vinny Desharnais. If you move Broberg, what do you have in the organization that's ready to go, right? Kemp, they've watered themselves down on the blue line, Struds. I would not trade Philip Broberg. I would put him in position that come playoff time, you've got a confident player ready to step in and contribute, whether that was because he beat out Desharnais and got the minutes at the NHL level or because he crushed it in the American League. They just have to figure out the development plan and stick to it and not have the guy half pregnant all year bouncing around on planes and practicing and not playing flipping games.
If the Oilers are going to the playoffs next year, are you confident that Broberg can be the seventh defenseman, played 30 games as a sixth, seventh defenseman?
Yes, you have to. You have to be willing
you
to.
Weren't this year.
What's that?
You weren't confident this year with him, were you? So what's the difference? Another year?
Well, the difference is 23 minutes a night every night in the American Hockey League, developing and growing and playing. Look at his games played here. I'm going to run down his games played. 21-22, 54 total games played, 22-23, 50-some games played, 46 at the NHL level. Like, I think what this player needs is more time on the ice, playing the pro game over here, and letting him develop into whatever he's going to be. So when you call him up, he's ready to go. A seventh defenseman with his experience level, I mean, teams do that all the time.
But the reality is that playing 23 minutes in the American League is not playing 20 minutes in the NHL. It's a huge difference. And when he comes up here, he's limited. You know, he's not running the power play. He is not on the penalty kill when he's in the lineup. I should say. So now a top four guy goes down. It's Kulak goes up, and now it's Broberg and it's Desharnais as your fifth, sixth defenseman. So listen, I like Broberg. I think there's something there. I would like him to be able to play every night in the NHL and figure out what you got, and he figures it out. I think he's at the time where he has to play every night in the NHL and not 10 minutes, right? I'm talking 15, 18 minutes every night. I don't see that path for him forward. So, you know, you're asking a guy to play the right side. Okay, I guess you can play the right side. It's not ideal, but you know he's not. There's no room. The left side is locked up. I just don't know where he goes. If I was Broberg, I wouldn't love it. I might ask for a trade if I was Broberg.
So let me ask you this, and it doesn't matter if you ask for a trade. You don't have to trade the player. So let's say he plays in the American Hockey League this year and is playing excellent, one of the better defensemen in the American Hockey League, which he absolutely has a chance to be. Yeah. Right? He's playing really, really well, and everybody knows it. And the trade deadline is a month and a half away, and the Oilers say to themselves, this guy's crushing it. We need to see what we've got. So they, at that point, through what he's accomplished, they recall him, they put him in the lineup, maybe in favor of Desharnais. They give him 10, 15 games to see kind of where he's at, and the trade deadline rolls around, and they go, you know what? This guy is right. This guy is ready. So what we can do is we can move Brett Kulak, and we can go get the right shot guy that we actually need in the top four. Like they came in talking about players being overripe, Struds. That was the plan. That's exactly what Broberg has the opportunity to be if they would just put him in a spot to play a bunch of minutes and let the player develop.
Yeah, I could see that. Then they'll have to go out and sign a seventh defenseman. You know, they'll have to find someone to sign, and that's
what Ryan Murray was supposed to be this year. So I agree with that.
Yeah, so they can figure it out, but it's you have to talk to his agent and the player and make them understand that this is what we're doing this for. This isn't punishment, and this is what it is. Like, well, I don't believe I'm an NHL defenseman anymore. Well, we don't want you to be an NHL defenseman. We want you to be a way better NHL defenseman. But I agree the plane is huge. But it is not the same going from the American League to the NHL. There is a jump there, and that's pretty obvious. But I do think he has to play, but I think he's going to end up playing in the NHL 10 minutes a night, and I just don't. That's not it. That's not the answer.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to play 10 minutes a night if he's here. I think he's going to play every third game 10 minutes a night if he's here.
There you go. Yeah.
And I think going on record right now, I think that's a mistake. I think it's a mistake to have Philip Broberg as a seventh defenseman in every game here and there and not being able to play regularly. And they'll get to the playoffs and the exact same thing will happen next year that happened this year. They didn't know what they had. They didn't know if they could trust him. He was not usable. They did that with Dylan Holloway this year too. Disagree. And I don't think you should trade him. You need good players. You need good young players. And they've traded away too many of their young defensemen. I understand why they have, but they have. And now they're going to need him. Okay, where else? What do we got left on the list here? We got Klim Kostin. Yeah, so Klim Kostin. Ken Holland. I sort of alluded to this a few weeks ago. I didn't think it was going to be a cakewalk to re-sign this player. Heard rumblings that the KHL might come calling for him. He's an interesting guy, right? He's an interesting personality. I think he marches to the beat of his own drum. I think he, probably has a little bit of, screw it in his personality. And he could go back and probably make some decent money in the KHL. I think the issue here is deployment. I think there were some nights where he was barely used. And he might be one of those guys that feels like, hey, if the coach doesn't trust me, it isn't going to use me. I got no interest in being here. And there were signs that was the case with the coach. I'm just saying what the potential thought process could be from the players' side. And to that, Struds, you say what?
I think he's got to be really careful now. I don't know him, and I just know that I always wanted to play in the best league. And if the best league in the world was the KHL, I would have gone there. Like I would have traveled across and done whatever I had to play in the best league in the world. I wanted to be known as a person who could play in the best player in the world for a long time. Yep. Or best league in the world, I should say. So, the KHL is a nice option, and being close to home, I get it. I completely get it. I understand that. But I'm just going to focus on the fact that, here in the NHL. Now, Danny Nugent Bowman talked a little bit, kind of in some ideas that maybe the two sides are a little bit further apart on their contracts. And I get he wants a raise, but this is the first time he's had any traction with an NHL team. Now, it's only his second team, but he's got traction. I think there's a role. I think there's a likability about him from the fans, but also from his teammates. I think his teammates really respect and understand his game. And it was only his first year. And yeah, he made some mistakes, but everyone makes mistakes when you're getting into the game and even when you get older. So if he truly wants to have an NHL career, I think I tell my agent, give me a 1-year deal. Get me a 1-year deal, get back to Edmonton. This team is built to win. They're trying to move forward where they're going to have a Stanley Cup aspirations and hopefully they can, get to the third or fourth round next year and punch that ticket to the winning a Stanley Cup. If let's say that the Oilers say, okay, well, we can't agree, we're not going to qualify him. Then he goes and signs in Arizona. And now he's exposed as maybe a guy that, he plays more minutes and he can't get it done because he's not ready or his game hasn't been shaped properly enough, or he goes to Chicago or whatever. And he could be spit out of the NHL and back to the KHL with nothing else. And I've seen it happen before. So, you got to be really careful. If you truly want to be in the best league in the world, stay on the best team where there is a role for you. Now, do you want more? Yeah, you always want more as a player. But I think this is a real turning point for Klim and his NHL career because he's not a baby. He's not 20 years old. What is he now? 24, I think, or something. 23, 24.
Like I can try and grab it here.
And he's at a turning point. You get drafted, you're a prospect, and then you can kind of become a little suspect around 24, 25, 26. And that's where guys kind of teeter out and burn out. So I'm worried for Klim in his NHL career. Maybe he's not worried about his NHL career, and that's fine. But if that is important to him, this is a place to be. I truly feel that for him.
Scored 11 goals in 57 games with the Oilers. Mm-hmm. Scored 3 playoff goals, Struds. He had 5 points in 12 playoff games.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That is not $1.1 million performance. That is not $1.3 million performance. So you could say the body of work isn't necessarily there. But if I'm Klim Kostin, I'm going, you need to pay me the kind of money where it's going to be painful for you to put me in the American Hockey League and have me playing in the American Hockey League at that dollar figure. And if I'm him and you're looking at the way he was used, you're going, I could get buried here. Like you got Holloway coming. They're going to have to keep Lavoie. You look at the left side. He's not great when he moves over. Like it's. I don't know, man. I think this player would be concerned about deployment and usage, and I think there's a pattern that would show that. So he had a good year, and I agree with you. You need to be careful, but at the same time, I could understand his concern if he was worried. Okay, so the Oilers are saying you want to try and win a Stanley Cup, you got to take less to stay here and do that. And he goes, okay, will you keep me up all year then? I'll do that, but you need to tell me I'm not going to be sent to the American Hockey League. I'm going to get an opportunity. Well, I don't know how much you're willing to hand out those opportunities if you're the team either. I think he's played well enough and provided an element where he's probably okay to be looking for a little bit of assurance here, either in the form of more money or understanding what his role is going to be.
You think there's a chance he'd get through waivers?
Probably not. I don't think so. He was fighting some of the toughest guys around the league, scoring playoff goals, igniting the crowd and being physical.
Yeah, I think that the waiver thing, I think getting sent to the minors is, I wouldn't really be worried about that if I was him. I see a big guy that can skate, hit, score.
Well, how about healthy scratched a ton then?
Yeah, and that's a possibility. No, that there's no doubt that's a possibility. But again, it's his second full year in the NHL. He's had 1 year in the NHL, one. And he's trying to grow a resume and grow his game. And do I think he can move up the lineup? I do. I think he can be a better, more minutes, but there's trust factor, doing the right thing all the time, understanding the moment, being consistent in your play. I'm not, ripping on him. I like this player, but it'll be your second year in the NHL. The first team didn't give you any chances. And now St. Louis is known for big, strong wingers. Didn't get a chance there. I don't know it off, exactly, but I think off the top of my head, he played a handful of games there with St. Louis. So now this second team, you're getting traction. And I know what it's like. I went from the Islanders where I was getting it going, then I got traded to Canucks, and I was nervous. I didn't know what was going on. They're like, sign a one-year deal. I'm like, I'll sign anything. Just give me a chance I got a little bit of NHL traction. I didn't want to go start again in another organization, go to Washington. No one knows me. Now I got to start again. When you have a little traction, you want to dig in and grow that. But this time next year, it could be a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
Completely different conversation. I've been through this. I know what he's thinking, but you want a chance to just solidify your NHL position.
Yeah. You make a great point, buddy. Played 46 games with the St. Louis Blues over the course 1920, 2021, and 21-22. Had a KHL season in there during COVID in the middle, went to Omsk. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Klim Kostin. Yeah. I think they need more of these types of players in their lineup. I think that this is the kind of guy you need to have through an 82-game season. Takes the pressure off some of your more skilled guys like Evander Kane and Darnell Nurse. And if there's ugly stuff that needs looking after, he's a guy that can step in and take care of some of that stuff. I think that's really meaningful over the course of a season. I think there's value here, but they don't want to be in a position to have to pay, 1.5 or more, kind of push, you start pushing up into the contract area where you're not comfortable. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Klim Kostin. Okay, that was the breakdown brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. Going to go around the NHL here a little bit in our takeaways segment, brought to you by Sherwood Buick GMC, Canada's #1 GMC dealership, 5 years in the running. If you're looking for a new truck, car, SUV, new or used, they got lots of inventory. So it is worth the drive just off Baseline Road on the way into Sherwood Park. Go see Phil and the crew at Sherwood Buick GMC. I got the Sierra 1500 Elevation, and it is spectacular. Just great products, lots of awesome stuff. That is Sherwood Buick GMC. Oh, Chris is just informing me that he has the Horse Racing Alberta as the next logo. So, Chris, that's okay, buddy. We'll, I'm sure Phil will understand. You take a quick minute. You can change it mid-segment if you have to, but take a minute and drop Sherwood Buick GMC in over top there. No problem. Okay, some trades yesterday, Struds. It's interesting, I'm with the insiders all day long watching them work their phones. It's hilarious, man. Like they'll be walking down the busy streets of Nashville like this on their phone typing, and I'll literally have my hands on like Pierre's shoulders and be like navigating him through traffic because we'll be on our way to the set, but he needs to be working. Yeah, these guys work incredibly hard this week, but why not? There's so much that's going on. Pierre-Luc Dubois to the Los Angeles Kings. Velarde, Iafallo, Kapari, a second. I have to say, bud, everybody knew that they were trying to trade this player, that they had to trade this player. And that makes it really hard to get a good return. I thought Kevin Cheveldayoff got a pretty good haul for a guy everybody knew was going.
Yeah, I really think I mean, Pierre-Luc Dubois, I think at times he can be a bit of a lazy player. And we've seen him just be amazing. I want to go back to when he was playing with Columbus and he against Tampa, and he put an absolute clinic on. But I do like the player when he's bringing everything he's got. But that return is amazing. They added a lot of nice pieces, and we saw what Iafallo and who was it, Velarde, some of the impact they had last year in the playoffs for the Kings. So I like this move. And they get to second round. I mean, they added some depth to their group. But Pierre-Luc Dubois, I think, is the best of the bunch. So, what does that mean for LA? And more importantly, what does it mean for Oilers fans? When I look at it, I see now a three-pronged attack down the middle. Kopitar, obviously, Deneau, and then you've got this guy, Pierre-Luc Dubois. Do they all play center? It's kind of a little bit like the Oilers with Nuge, McDavid, and Draisaitl. Do all three of them play center all the time? And if so, who are the wingers? Because they moved out some wingers for these guys to play with, and they still have to sort out their goaltending situation. I think Phoenix Copley is the only guy I think they have on a contract. So, I love the way that Rob Blake's approach rebuilding this team. I think next year is going to be Kings, Oilers, and Vegas. But this is a big player moving into an already deep center group. Do they all play center? TBD, I guess, buddy.
I hopped over to Daily Faceoff where they've got the lines and just running through what they have here. Just kind of a cursory look is Byfield, and we'll see if Byfield can take the step that everybody's waiting for him to take. Right, he hasn't been able to yet. Big, strong kid, big center. Kind of waiting for him to graduate into that true top six role. Byfield, Kopitar, and Kempe. How good is Kempe?
Yeah, unreal.
Moore, Deneau, Arvidsson. And then Fiala, Dubois, and Kaliev. Like, that is a good, deep top nine. They just traded a bunch of forwards. And they still are that deep up front. So I agree with you, man. The LA Kings are a unit, man. They're going to be a beast next year, I think. And the blue line, we've seen it. It's grown. They were young before. We'll see what ends up happening here. And on the goaltending front, we'll see kind of which way it goes, but no question. Cheveldayoff is not done. Connor Hellebuck. Ray Ferraro made a great point on the Ray and Dregs podcast the other day that almost made, every once in a while you hear something and it makes you change your thinking. He was asked about the idea of going with the really expensive $9 million goaltender, right? We've seen it work in some places, right? Vasilevsky's fantastic, and we saw the success that they had. And he made a great point, Struds, about the expensive goalie. Goalies play 65 games, maybe on the far end. If you're playing a ton, you basically end up with $9 million of value sitting on your bench for 20 to 25 games a year, and you're one injury away from removing $9 million in value from your lineup. Like, you're way better off to hedge your bets with two quality guys than throw all your eggs in one basket for a guy that's not going to play for you every single night. If you were a general manager, would you go the route of the high-paid single goaltender?
Oh, man. It depends. Okay, age will be a factor, right? Mm-hmm. So if I can get a guy kind of his prime, like we're looking at with Tampa and Vasilevsky, I think that makes it a lot easier. Signing a guy at 30 is a little bit harder. 29, I think that's a little bit harder of a go. I just look at when you have a top-end goalie, the way that he can change a game, change a series, and help you get a cup, I just think it's too easy. Now, this past year with Adin Hill, I mean, who had this guy getting that done, right? So I think that's the randomness, and how do you find the right guy? But then in previous years, we have seen Vasilevsky put an absolute clinic on, or Jonathan Quick put an absolute clinic on. That's a few years ago. So, man, I'm hedging my bets here. But when they're in their prime, when they're young, yes, right, I would do it. Yes.
So you wouldn't want to sign him through his mid-late 30s in those numbers. And and that's where it definitely gets dangerous. Yeah, and I think that's smart. So Cheveldayoff's challenge here is to try and get deals on Scheifele and Hellebuck. And I think he did a great job with this Dubois deal. Expectations to me are way lower on what the returns look like My understanding, both guys are looking for contract extensions that are pretty heavy, might scare some teams away. I don't think he's going to hit three home runs on deals here. With these next two, if they happen, could be significantly tougher for him to execute. But man, you head into an offseason like this, Struds, any one of these deals is franchise altering. He's got to make three of them at least.
Yeah. Well, he's done well in the first one, right? I think he added some players that can really help. Then a little draft capital to do what he wants with that. I mean, the other two, like Scheifele is a funny player. Like I like Scheifele as a player. I think he's really solid. I think he can score for you. So when I look at that, I think that's probably an easier trade than Hellebuck. Now the extension, you always hear that he was unhappy with the contract he had with Jets, but he signed the deal, man. So sign something that like you're going to find and like, and don't let that be, or don't make it be the limiting factor in any trade you're going to. Like wherever you're going, I'm guessing it'll be, citywide, and no disrespect to the great people of Winnipeg, but I'm guessing it'll be a better city than it is in Winnipeg, right? So, and in a better situation, then go somewhere we can win. Like you've had personal success, like not Hart Trophy, but you've had some good success personally. He's a good player. He's center. He can score. You can be a valuable member of another team. So get yourself in a position that's really good, and don't let it be the money. Like it's just like, no, that's not enough money. Like get somewhere. If you make, I'm just going to throw a number. Instead of making 8.5, you make 7.5, but you get it for 7 years and you're in a great spot. Like it's pretty good. Like that's a pretty good life. And I would never want the money again if I was an agent, ruin a good deal potentially. So I think though, but to get your point for Cheveldayoff, I think this is reshaping his organization big time. Get a little bit younger, a little bit more, excitement maybe, and kind of change up some of those guys. And then Blake Wheeler's the other one that I don't know what your sense is. Maybe it's heading towards a
buyout. Well, it'll have to be a buyout for the Dubois thing to it's heading in that direction.
That's four guys. That's four players that were core players for you, leaders for the last 3 years, and the other guys much longer than that, than Dubois. So this dressing room will feel like fresh air next year. Bunch of fresh air. Be an interesting team to watch, but let's see what these next two trades look like.
No question. The other deal, Tyler Toffoli ends up a member of the New Jersey Devils. Igor Sharangovich comes back. Craig Conroy is in a spot too, man. Like Canadian GM's just really right in the middle of it with franchise-changing trades that need to be made. And that's not it for Calgary. They get this Toffoli deal done. Yeah, they got Hanifin sitting out there. You got Backlund, this Lindholm situation. These are crushingly important players to their lineup that they got to find deals for. So Toffoli to New Jersey, they get a young player back. This is going to be a heavy lift for Craig Conroy at his first draft sitting at the big table.
Oh man, that's a big deal. And you know what? So you get a third rounder and get the young shooter from New Jersey, and he had he had 24 goals 2 years ago. Big guy, can skate, can play all positions. It's a bit of a wild card. Craig even said that. He said, we'll get him to camp and see where he fits in position wise. But it's funny that Toffoli's the first one out. Daryl Sutter's guy. That he's gone within a short order. So they're reshaping the team there. The other guys, it's easier to trade a winger. I wonder how quickly it moves with Backlund or Lindholm. If you can get one of them to sign, because they need centers. You need to have some veteran centers, and for a new coach, their new GM, they got to have some consistency. But maybe Noah Hanifin is the one year like, hey, we'll move him next, and then hoping you can get one of these two other guys or both to sign extensions. And if you don't, do you automatically trade them as well? Maybe you hang on to them into the season, and because you got to have something to play with, right? For this new setup and new people.
Yeah, no question. Be an interesting day today. Looking forward to it. Heading over to the draft. Thrilled to be out here, and it's going to be a fun day for sure. Zuby, let's get you back in, buddy, because I know you were keeping an eye on some comments on Twitter, and we're going to get to that feedback, and that'll be brought to you by our good friends at Horse Racing Alberta. Live Thoroughbred Racing is back at Century Mile Racetrack. Stand trackside, feel the thunder, the power, the speed. It's exciting stuff. Some of the finest thoroughbred racing available in Western Canada. We're lucky to have it. So have some fun. Go check out the races. For more information, stay up to date completely. Go to thehorses.com. Zuby, you were monitoring the feed and some comments. What's the temperament of Oiler fan on the heels of Ken Holland's press conference yesterday?
Well, it's the kind of general malaise about that he's standing put, not going to do anything, kind of sitting back, and people, not super thrilled about that. It's a pretty common thread. I'll read one of the sort of nicer responses on that topic.
Were they that bad? They were that? You got to just try and find a nicer.
I mean, it's fenced. It's him with a. Jillian Barker said $5 million GM always finds it tough to get creative. Somehow other GMs clear cap space without a hitch. That's a pretty good. Yeah. I would say that's kind of how people are feeling in the mentions here.
I'll take this one. So we heard this all year long. Oh, Ken Holland's not doing anything. He's just sitting. He's losing the trade. Look what the Leafs have done. Look what Boston have done. Oh, what? He just traded for Ekholm? The perfect fit is what he got. So that's why you pay a GM $5 million to get the perfect fit for answer exactly right. Did it work? It worked better than any trade that was done last year. Oh, by the way, the other guy, Klim Kostin. So he's going to be surgical.
Bukestad.
Sorry, that's another fair. So the trades he made were perfect. Look at we'll go back to talk to Toronto Maple Leafs. All the D men they brought in, if they didn't know, they had nothing. They had a ton of defensemen. There were 4 and 5 defensemen. They had Morgan Riley. Then they had Luke Shen playing with Morgan Riley. Right. So again, Morgan Riley's their number 1 defenseman. They had a 6 or 7 defensemen playing with them. So you can make moves. Oh my God, this GM is great. And it didn't work out. And now they're trying to. And quite frankly, it probably unfairly or fairly cost him his job. Boston made all those moves, didn't work out. So they did the perfect one. So Oilers fans, be patient and trust in the GM that got it perfect last year.
Yeah, this is the thing on Holland. There's a lot of frustration, and people are eager, and they want activity all the time. They want to be in the middle of it. But if you take a big step back, Struds, a big step back. And you know me, man. If I think it's time to rip, I will rip. I got no issue ripping into people if I don't think that the job has been done right or if I have criticism. It'll be fair. But honestly, look at the major maneuvers that he's made in his time here to position this organization to take advantage of McDavid and Draisaitl in their prime, right? Needed better top 6 forwards, but needed a little more grit. Needed to, for things to feel a little more cohesive. Enter Zach Hyman, right? Need to find bargains. Need to find, guys who can contribute at a dollar figure that is beyond value. So what do? You got to be daring and take some chances. Enter Evander Kane. Franchise altering to go get a player that can score the way he can and be physical the way he can at the dollar figure that, make sure you don't sign him long term. I was the one saying that. Be careful here. Went out, did the deal with him. And what they get from him and what his potential is for what they're paying him. And he's been nothing but positive. His work in the community and everything. They did their due diligence. He was bold and daring, took a chance, went out and got that guy. Like this Ekholm trade, surgical to your point. Has he gotten stuff wrong? Yeah, absolutely. But every general manager does. I would submit to you that he's done a pretty damn good job of shepherding this thing. You got McDavid and Draisaitl as your core. Now you need to turn them into a contender. And I think he's done a pretty good job of that. All the while, the cap has barely moved.
Yeah, well said. And so we expect the same. I think a little tinkering. Well, he said his game plan. It'll be a little bit of tinkering, maybe in the bottom 6. Maybe you got to trade out or trade in. But, as far as bringing in the big right shot defenseman or maybe that final piece of the top 6, that's going to have to wait. That's going to be patient and wait for opportunity and for things to present themselves.
Subi, anything else in there that's worth a mention, or just a bunch of angry, frustrated folks?
No. There's a couple of other comments I'll get to really quick, but I just wanted to personally too. Like, I wonder if in fandom, if Ken Holland's candor, and honesty about being, we're waiting till July 2nd. Yeah. There's probably 10 other GMs thinking the same thing, but they don't necessarily come out and say it. And I know Ken Holland doesn't care that much about the specific fan reaction to his moves. But do you think that creates this stir too, the fact that he's so honest?
Yeah, and Struds made that point earlier. He has a tendency to just kind of say what he's thinking for the most part. If you go back and listen to what he said and then look at what he did, it's almost the same thing.
100%.
Like he's veteran enough. He doesn't care. He doesn't really feel like he needs to play games or posture. If he can answer it, he tries to. And so maybe. But I'm telling you, Oiler fan, I don't think there's going to be any big splashes here in the next couple of days. I might be wrong. I think they're trying and they're open to it. I don't think it's going to happen. And I think what we'll see is another surgical move closer to the deadline when they know exactly what they've got. And I think I don't think this is, you got to lower expectations because you never know and you don't want to overpromise. I don't think he thinks like that. I actually think that's where they're at right now.
Two other quick comments here. John Thompson is saying, so basically he's telling us he can't move Yamamoto. And then another one from someone named Lenti. I hope it's a cap thing they could do. Kostin plays in the KHL all season and comes back for the playoffs with a little.
Doesn't work like that.
So I think that's in jest, but
yeah, no, it doesn't work like that. I mean, I think they like Klim Kostin. I think they're going to try and get him done. I think a lot of this rides on Klim Kostin and where he feels his value is, how he feels like he's going to be used, and really his willingness to go back. And guys can make a good chunk of money in the KHL. And Struds, I don't know. You must have heard through all those years playing with guys. For Russian players to go back and play in the KHL, I think their life is made pretty easy for them.
Yeah, and I get it. I totally get going home to play. I understand that. But, you want to be in the best league in the world. I really feel strongly about that. And you can always go back there and make money. Like, I don't think that's going anywhere. He's a really good player. But to be on a team, like, I think back to when I played. If I could have been on a team, I make a little bit less money. Maybe I have a smaller role. But to be on a team that potentially could win a Stanley Cup, that doesn't happen every time in your career, right? It doesn't happen all the time in your career, or actually for a lot of guys, very often. Mm-hmm. So that's something you really got to weigh. And I wonder, I know he's good friends with Evander Kane. Is Evander talking to him saying, "Bud, like, we're close. Like, like you can go to Russia next year or in 2 years, but we got a chance to win something, and we need you. You're part of this process, this solution."
Beloved by the fans. Beloved by the fans. Zuby, that was really good timing on the music today, Zuby. You nailed it, buddy. Now we just got to get the Weiss Johnson jingle sorted. Your timing on that. But great job today.
Here it must be a delay because I'm like on your heels when I start it. You barely even finished the phone number.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's the delay then. Okay. Good job, guys. Looking forward to the NHL entry draft today, and we will check in the next couple of days. A big thanks to everybody that's downloading and subscribing. We're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep pushing out podcasts, keep trying to provide content. Also want to mention, if you are looking for more Oiler content, Dusty and Tom Gazzola have the Oil Stream. And that's another podcast. They've been doing it for a little while. They do a great job on that podcast. And I know they're going to continue trying to push that out. So recommend you check out Oil Stream. We know, Oiler fan, you're just looking for content on your team right now. And we're going to keep trying to provide that. And so are others. And look forward to doing more. Struds, great job. Zuby, good job today, buddy. We'll talk in the next couple of days. Thanks to our sponsors, Mid-City Construction Management, DLR Vinyl Products, Sherwood Buick GMC, Horse Racing Alberta, and Weiss Johnson. We had the whole sponsor rack ready to roll today. Enjoy the draft, and we'll check it again before free agency. Cheers. From Smashville. Cheers.